Thank you. Thank you so much, Imran. Very, very quick follow-up question, because you have touched on a lot of the legal aspects and how fraught they are. How durable is the current peace between India and Pakistan?
So it's not durable, and it's not even peace. And so in law, occupation is by definition a state of war. Legally, that's true, and practically, it's also true. And as I described here, colonization is also an ongoing phenomenon. Robert Arthur described, settler colonialism specifically, but colonization generally, both legally and practically, is something that is much worse than just war. Omar referred to this, but India and Pakistan are in a state of constant conflict. Sometimes it's hotter, like it was in the last couple of weeks, but there is always conflict. And beneath that conflict, and what the states put out around it, there are people who are living, and Umar did a great job in describing what this means. They live a reality of intense insecurity, constant indignity, and they face untold death and destruction nobody really talks about or reports. The thing is that Kashmir, and there's a question also about, what does it mean for President Trump and the international community, et cetera, and we can kind of explore this further in the questions, but we should remember that Kashmir has actually been a focus of the international community since 1947. So the day before these reported killings in Baisar and Pahalgam, April 22nd, was the 77th anniversary of UN Security Council Resolution 47 of 1948, April 21, 1948. This is adopted 8 months prior to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to give you the sense of the vintage of the stuff and what it's meant for just establishing the international order that we've had. One paragraph from that resolution, I'll read it to you. The government of India should themselves, and through the government of the state, Jammu and Kashmir, declare and make known that all subjects of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, regardless of creed, caste, or party, will be safe and free and expressing their views and voting on the question of the accession of the state, a referendum to join wherever they want or do whatever they want. And there will be freedom of the press, speech, and assembly, and freedom of travel in the state, including freedom of lawful entry and exit. None of those things, not a single one of them, was promoted or respected in this region in the intervening 77 years. And today, none of those rights exist in any form. They are completely denied. So the point that I'm making is that despite being recognized as an issue, the reality of what has happened and is happening in Kashmir is not acknowledged. It's not discussed, but it's not even acknowledged. And so in Kashmir, you have the combination of very grave violations, very grave institutional failure, and the very grave and systematic distortion of reality. So directionally, this is really bad. And that's true both of the circumstance and that distortion. It's getting worse. And I'll go back to the This Water Treaty for a second. If you will, what I described is the US and the UK trying to broker a peaceful resolution between India and Pakistan. And I describe that as violative, invalid, and promoting violations, and it does. But that is the product of the international community, if you will, being engaged, and actually at its most optimistic time in the 1950s. And what they produced was a violative agreement that promoted the marginalization of the people it should have centered and the exacerbation of the issues that it was intended to solve. So it was always doomed as a legal treaty, as a way to partition resources, because it's predicated on refusing to acknowledge reality and consequently exacerbates the realities that it refused to acknowledge. It refused to acknowledge the people of Kashmir and their rights. It furthered the violations against them, and in furthering the violations, including through the promotion of expansive dam building and related infrastructure, it has accelerated the destruction of the region's glaciers and the very fresh water resource that it sought to partition. So even if you put aside, as you probably have seen reported, India's threats and actions, things that they're doing today to cut off water to Pakistan. Again, this is 85 to 90% of Pakistan's fresh water. There is this existing severe water crisis. I described that in part. And that has been facilitated by the Indus Waters Treaty itself. And the point that I want to make is that reality is very precarious in this region. It's precarious everywhere, but it's extreme here. Reality doesn't go away. It's not going to go away. A durable peace depends on acknowledging reality. And that's done through transparency. It's done through accountability. It's done through reparations, fixing things that were done wrong. And then implementing principled measures that promote inclusion rather than marginalization, and rights instead of impunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Imran.